Hey there, Mike Robbins here with another video blog message. This week I want to talk a little bit about criticism. Now, how do you handle criticism? How do you feel about it? If you're anything like me, you probably aren't a big fan of it. I don't really like to be criticized. But I got some criticism in the last few weeks, a couple different times, from a couple different sources. And while I did get a little defensive at first, and I wasn't particularly happy about it, I actually was somewhat pleasantly surprised with how I dealt with it. And it got me really thinking a little bit more deeply about how I handle criticism, or what are some ways that we can handle criticism more effectively. Now, in addition to receiving this criticism, I've also been reading a great book, well, actually listening to the audio book, which is often my favorite way to read books these days, called Daring Greatly by Dr. Brene Brown, which you may be familiar with. Brene Brown, I talk about her quite a bit, and her work is out there in lots of wonderful ways. And one of the things that she talks about in this book, the title of the book itself, Daring Greatly, is taken from a quote by Theodore Roosevelt from many years ago, and it's often referred to as the man in the arena quote. And the quote is essentially Theodore Roosevelt saying, look, it's not really the critic who counts, it's the person who's willing to get in the arena, so to speak, really get in there in life. And it's easy to point fingers and to make criticisms, right? But it's often harder to actually put ourselves out there. And one of the things that Brene Brown says in her book about criticism is like, look, I'm not really interested in people's criticism if they're not actually in the arena with me, or at least in some arena of their own, getting their butts kicked and really going after it in life. And I really appreciated her perspective, because it was actually able to allow me to really let go of being too concerned about these pieces of criticism that I got. One of them came unsolicited, through the internet. Another one was feedback from a presentation that I'd given. But I think there's some things that we can do to both handle criticism more effectively and also notice where our fear of criticism might be holding us back. So here's a couple things to think about. First thing is, consider the source. Where does the criticism come from? Again, did you ask for it? Is it from someone that you trust, someone that you care about? Again, there's an important distinction that I always like to make between criticism and feedback. They're similar in some ways and often can feel the same, particularly if they're more of the critical nature, but criticism is often unsolicited. Again, someone just spouts their opinion, maybe on the internet, maybe just sort of tells us what they think without us even asking. Feedback, on the other hand, can be incredibly valuable and powerful. How we learn, how we grow, how we get better is by giving people permission around us whom we trust to give us feedback. Let us know where we can improve, we can enhance, we can alter or change something that we're doing. But it's important to consider the source. If we get some criticism from someone who we don't know, don't care about, don't have any real relationship with, why is it that we give our power away to that? And I often find myself doing that more often than I'd like to admit. So that's the first thing, consider the source. The second thing is to actually check in to see, is there value in the criticism itself? Again, feedback when we ask for it can be really valuable. Now, it's not always pleasant. I don't always like the feedback that I get, but when I'm being coached by someone, or I have a mentor or someone that I've said, hey, give me some feedback, even if it's not always so pleasant or positive, I'll take it in a certain way. Criticism almost never feels good initially, but even if it comes from an unsolicited source, or anonymously on the internet, or from someone that we don't really trust or like or care about, sometimes even with that, there is some value in the criticism. The criticism that I received in these last few weeks actually did have some value. Even though I didn't like it, I didn't want to give away my power to it and think, oh no, I'm terrible and everybody hates me, and all the crazy places our brain can go when we do get some criticism. But really check in, is there value in the criticism itself? Is there something I can take? Is there some gold in it, so to speak? And the third thing that we can do is notice and pay attention to and really start to tell the truth about how much time and energy do we give away, how much power do we give away, so to speak, to our fear of being criticized. How often do we not say or do things because we're afraid we'll be criticized? I started to think about that more in my life in the last few weeks. And one of the things that I realized was, wow, there are a number of things that I don't do, don't say, haven't tried, don't put myself out there for because I'm afraid of being criticized. But what if we could embrace it more? What if we could let it roll off our back? Look, it's never going to not impact us, right? We're human, we're emotional, we're sensitive, all of us, regardless of our personalities. So it's okay if it bothers us a little bit. That just means we're human. But what if we didn't worry so much about it? What if we didn't, again, give our power away so much to not just the criticism, but often the fear of the criticism? And one of the things I took away from the pieces of criticism that I got in these last few weeks was like, hey, you know what? That really wasn't that big of a deal. I didn't like it. It didn't feel so good, but there was some value. It came from some sources that really didn't matter that much to me. And you know what? I don't have to let it mess with me so much. Taking our power back from the fear of criticism all of a sudden opens up all kinds of possibilities for us. Things we could do, things we could say, risks we could take. Imagine that. So be kind and gentle with yourself as you're kind of looking at this. But see what you can do to alter and shift the way maybe you relate to criticism. Might have a big impact in your life. Thanks so much for watching this video. Feel free to share it with anyone you think might resonate with it. And I look forward to connecting with you again real soon.